He came to BYU as a walk-on wide receiver, but he left as one of the greatest tight ends in school history. He also caught a touchdown pass for the Baltimore Ravens in their 34-31 victory over San Francisco in the 2012 Super Bowl. And it's a pleasure to welcome the Hall of Famer to game day. What do you think of this atmosphere here tonight?
Oh, man. This is unbelievable. I can't even hear you guys right here. It's so loud behind me.
We're going to have to yell our questions for Dennis.
Yeah, you guys are going to have to yell. I mean, this is electric here.
Back in your day, you played with Max Hall, Harvey Unga, Austin Collie, David Nixon on the other side.
And Brian.
And Brian. You won 32 games. You made Max Hall the winningest quarterback in BYU history. How much fun was that group?
Oh, I mean, it was so much fun. You know, Max always gets credit as the winningest quarterback in BYU history. How many wins does he have? I think 32. So what a lot of people forget is my freshman year at BYU, we went 5-6. So I actually have 5 more wins than Max. So I don't get enough credit. I might be the winningest player in BYU history.
Are you the winningest tight end for sure, right?
I have no idea. But I always give Max a hard time about that because everybody gives him all that kind of credit.
Yeah, they do.
And I said, but I got 5 more wins than you. Yeah, I got 6 more losses too, but we only care about the wins.
Right, exactly. Nobody talks about the losses. Hey, let's talk about the record. 221 career receptions, still #1 all-time at BYU. 21 touchdowns is #1 among tight ends. Well, one behind legendary Gordon Hudson.
Yeah.
How important should the tight end position be? Traditionally, it's been great. How important should it be now to this BYU offense?
Well, I think it should be the focal point of the offense. And I said this a lot yesterday. I went on with Spencer and Jaren in BYU Sports Nation. And listen, I don't necessarily agree with the timing of Dallin's transfer and all that. But I understand why he transferred. He wasn't happy with his role. He wasn't happy with how he's being utilized, and he wasn't necessarily happy with his fit in this system. Now, I love Aaron Roderick, and I love what he's done, and I love the system that they have in place. But I do think they need to find a way to get Isaac Rex. They needed to find a way to get Dallin Holker more involved. Now, it doesn't necessarily excuse the timing with everything. I think that was a little bit odd. But listen, those guys are NFL caliber players, in my opinion, and I think in a lot of NFL scouts' opinions as well. And so you have to find a way, when you have 2 guys that good in your football team, you have to find a way to utilize them, especially over these first 3 games. Now, a lot of people say, well, it's a small sample size, it's a long season.
Right.
But over these first 3 games, your top 2 wide receivers weren't in the game. They were injured. That would have been the time, in my opinion, to really lean on those tight ends and their skill set to be able to move the ball offensively. Now, they moved the ball well. Last week, not so much. But I would have loved to see the tight end be more of a focal point in this offense. And I don't want to excuse, you know, Dallin's transfer and all that. I think BYU fans are a little bit upset by that. Now, I'll never judge a kid either. You know, we don't know his situation, and he's trying to do what's best for him and his family. But I would have loved to see their role be bigger. And I still think Isaac Rex and the tight ends they have in that room need a bigger role in this offense.
Hey, speaking of Isaac Rex, from a tight end to a tight end, talk to us about how you love his game. Are there any similarities between you and him? And where do you see his potential going forward?
David, I don't know if you remember, but I didn't really block anybody.
I remember, believe me.
I mean, I could block you, but everybody could block you.
Cougar drill wasn't that hard, I'll say that.
That was an offensive drill.
Yeah.
That's right. Listen, Isaac is a more complete tight end than I ever was. I was more of a receiving tight end, and there's a place for that, and there's a place for a blocking tight end. I think Isaac Rex can do both. And, you know, he may not stretch the field quite like Dallin Holker could have, but he can make plays, and he has a huge catch radius. He can make unbelievable contested catches. We know how dangerous he is in the red zone. I think you can really utilize him as a weapon in the pass game, but he can stand in the line of scrimmage and block for you, and he can do the dirty work in the trenches. And I think to have a complete tight end like that, that's incredibly valuable. And I would love to see him get more opportunities, especially with Dallin's exit.
You know, let's switch gears a little bit. Your mom, Linda, I always wanted to tell you this. You know, I wanted to wait till we were done playing, but she said that I was her favorite player. I just want to say that right now. Shout out, Linda. Appreciate you. But we know that you finished your degree, right? Congratulations, man. That's got to be tough. It was tough for me to finish my degree while playing, so I can only imagine how tough it was for you to finish your degree after you were playing. But how much of a role and impact did she have, you know, when it came to you going back and finishing?
Yeah, I mean, a huge impact because she was always nagging me about going back to school. Listen, I had to leave BYU and do the whole draft thing, and you guys know how that goes. I had a couple classes left. I had, I think, 10 credits, and I think it was 15 years or almost 15 years after I left BYU where I had to start taking classes again online in my house. It was right in the middle of COVID, so I had kids running around. They weren't in school. It was not easy. It's never easy to get back into that school mode, I'll tell you that, especially being removed for over a decade from taking tests and doing all that. But, you know, my mom stayed on me, and I'm grateful for that because, you know, it finally motivated me enough to get it done. And you know, I get to, you know, I'm humbled to be a part of this Hall of Fame class, and that's one of the big, you know, prerequisites. And Jim McMahon learned that.
Oh, yeah.
And I certainly learned that. Danny, I mean, and I think it's awesome because not a lot of schools do that, where they require their alumni to graduate before getting any kind of honor like that. And so I'm grateful for BYU for that honor first and foremost, but it was also motivation for me to be able to get it finished in addition to my mom, like you said, Brian. She'll be happy you brought her up.
Yeah,
we appreciate that.
Awesome. Dennis, three times. So you're on a roll in the NFL, playing for a great team and having great success. Then you dislocate your hip.
Yeah.
And then it happens twice more. You came back after the first two. The third one was the one that you finally had to hang it up. My son Gavin, who coaches now, back-to-back ACL reconstructions and back-to-back years, and he comes back and plays. It's a dangerous game. It can cause a lot of pain. What is it about this game that means so much to folks that they just keep coming back? You come back after 2 hip dislocations.
Yeah, I mean, I always, you know, make the joke that Bo Jackson dislocated his hip, and he did it one time and it ended his career, right? And he was a great athlete by all accounts, but, you know, I was able to come back twice. So who's the better athlete in your guys' opinion?
According to that math,
we all know it was Bo Jackson, right? It was a joke. But listen, there is so much inherent risk in football, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world because there's so many incredible lessons you learn from being on a team, being in this kind of a sport, because it's the ultimate team sport in my opinion. You have to rely on the guy next to you. You have 11 guys out there that all are counting on you to do your job, and I'm counting on them to do theirs. And if one guy lets you down, the whole play can be a disaster. And so you learn how to be a great teammate. You learn how to work with others. I mean, how many different personalities do you have in a locker room? You got to be able to get along with so many different kinds of people and find a way to work together. And I think those are such valuable lessons, not only in football and sports, but in life, and certainly things that I want my son to learn, that I want my kids to learn. And you know, I'm never going to shy away from putting my kids in football. And listen, there's risk. Most guys get hurt, and I certainly went through that, but I wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.
We were talking to Austin Collie the other night. Despite all his concussions, he said, I'd play tonight if they'd let me go back out there. There's something magical about this game for the 4 of you that played it.
And I agree. I would do the same. If I could get out there and run like I used to, I would love to be out there. I would love to still be playing in the NFL, to be completely honest, but you know, that wasn't in the cards for me. And, you know, unfortunately, a lot of guys don't get to end their career on their own terms. And I wasn't able to do that, which is always difficult. But, you know, injuries are part of it, and you got to accept that and move on and learn from them.
A couple more questions with Dennis Pitta here on Game Day. Before the season, I asked you about Jaren Hall. It was a story we were writing on the tight ends.
Yeah.
And you made the comment as he develops and hopes to get to the NFL, you said that really the last thing he's lacking is throwing inside the hashes. And earlier you talked about hitting the tight ends because you guys lived inside the hashes. All right, he's through 3 games, and he's not thrown to the tight ends enough, if we listen to you. What are you looking for from him moving forward to get to that spot where he can go to the NFL and get a job?
Yeah, listen, I've loved what Jaren Hall has done this year. I think he's got total command of the offense. You watch him out there, he's comfortable. He knows where he wants to go with the ball. He's reading the field properly. But like I said, great quarterbacks know how to utilize the middle of the field, know how to attack up the seam, because that's where defenses, in my opinion, are most vulnerable. You watch what Tom Brady did for so many years with the Patriots, with Gronkowski and those guys. You watch what Mahomes does with Kelsey through the middle of the field. I mean, offenses that are able to take a skilled tight end like that and hurt people in the middle of the field, those are so difficult to defend. And, I mean, that travels anywhere. I mean, you saw our wide receivers last week against Oregon have some trouble getting separation from some of those speedy Oregon DBs.
Right.
A tight end in that situation can use their size, use their ability. That travels to any stadium. You can use your size and knock guys off and really attack up the seam. That, I think, is the one place where this offense can take the next step, and Jaren in particular, and really become great, because they have all the potential, and they have the tools, and they have the players. that is what I would love to see most, for them to really ascend offensively.
All right, Dennis, let's focus on tonight. BYU welcomes in the Wyoming Cowboys. You were 3-0 against the Cowboys.
Were you?
I was undefeated for, let's see, 4-0?
4-0. I only played them 3 times?
I guess so.
As a starter,
that's what your stat guy's telling you?
That's what my stat guy's telling me. I don't ask questions.
Hey, I was 5-0.
What were you? Oh.
If you count my redshirt year.
5 times.
Wow. Oh, the red
Did you get a COVID year too?
Everybody gets a COVID.
I said if you count my redshirt year.
I was 2-0.
Hey, but let's also remember I was 5-0 against Utah. How'd you guys do?
I was 2-2.
I was 2-2.
Were you?
2-2.
All right, hey, let's stay focused on it.
So let's focus on the Cowboys.
Stop getting sidetracked, David. Continue.
You're 3-0. What are the keys to tonight's game? If you could look at this matchup, for you, what do you think the keys are to this game tonight?
Well, I think you have to look at what how Wyoming thinks they can attack this BYU team. I mean, you have really 2 games now in a row where BYU struggled to stop the run. I mean, yeah, they got the win against Baylor, which was an unbelievable win. But they gave up a lot of yards on the ground. And then obviously last week we all saw, our defensive line was getting knocked off the ball. And there was just not enough physicality at the line of scrimmage to stop the run. So if you're Wyoming, which they want to run the football. We've all played against Wyoming, and they love to be tough. They love to be physical. They want to come downhill at you. And so they think with their running game and the tough guys that they have up front that they can do that against this BYU team. BYU's a little bit banged up front. They know that. I think that's going to be their blueprint and their formula, copying what the Ducks did last week and what Baylor did 2 weeks ago, trying to pound BYU in between the tackles and really knock them off the ball and send a message early in this game that we're going to be physical and you guys better bring it or we're going to be doing this to you all night.
Last night across the street, you're inducted into the Hall of Fame. You caught a touchdown pass in the Super Bowl. If you had to pick one moment over the other, which would it be?
Don't lie.
I'm not going to lie to you. I mean, both are special. I was giving my speech up there last night, and I got emotional. And I'm not somebody who gets emotional, right? And my son, who's standing over there, he was at the thing last night, and he leans over to my wife while I'm giving my speech. He said, "I've never seen Dad cry." And, it kind of snuck up on me. I didn't cry during the Super Bowl is my point.
Oh.
Okay? I got emotional last night because of, and in large part because of where I started my football career. I wasn't David Nixon and Brian Logan. I wasn't a high-priced recruit. And I came in as a lowly walk-on. Coach Croton thought my name was Dustin for a while.
Your locker was in the field house while everyone else was in the student.
Everybody else.
I do remember him saying to me, though, you should see this Dustin kid. He's pretty good for a freshman.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. And to your point, Dave, I was in the Smith Fieldhouse. Everybody else had transitioned over to the SAB.
Right.
We had these little tiny metal lockers. And so from where I started at BYU with no expectations, I never thought I'd be in this position to where I was able to get and the success I was able to have on the field and the great teammates I was able to have. That was special to me, and that really meant a lot. And so I got emotional last night talking about that stuff and just so much gratitude. And I just felt, humbled in that moment because of where I started and where I've ended up. And so I'm not going to pick one, but you guys can decide for yourself. Both were awesome moments. I'm going to look back on both and really have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for those experiences.
This culture that Kalani's established, we hear a lot about it from players in the locker room and from alums that come back. What have you noticed?
Oh, it's awesome. I mean, you talk to any player and they love it. And I think we would all agree. I've been in that locker room. I was in that locker room last year when they were about to play Utah. I mean, it was totally different than our locker rooms, right? But the players are relaxed, they're having fun, they're confident, and there's just an ease about them that Kalani kind of oozes into their players, and it's awesome. And they take the field, they're confident, they're relaxed, they're ready to play. And
which would you choose?
No, I'm not gonna choose.
See, these guys are making all the time, Dennis.
You guys are making me choose.
I'll go first. I would like Kalani's culture, but I would say this. Now, I don't know Kalani's structure outside of what I see game day and going to the locker room, right? What I mean by that is how does practice work, the day-to-day with schooling, right? Broncos structure, I needed that. Like, I needed Broncos structure. I needed somebody to tell me, do this, don't do that. Do that, go here, do this, do this. Now, again, I don't know if Kalani is the same way, but I like that, and I needed that. But I prefer the loose, laid back, kind of chill. So now that I went, you go ahead.
Yeah. All right, that makes it easier. So I agree. I'm by nature a more relaxed, loose. I like to bring a little bit of levity to an intense situation, right? And Kalani certainly breeds that kind of environment. Now, I think Bronco Mendenhall was the right guy for the job at that time in BYU football, 100%. Listen, I played with Gary Croton.
Right.
I left on my mission. That whole thing changed, right? And Dave was kind of a part of that. BYU needed that discipline. They needed that foundation and that kind of structure at that time. And so I wouldn't have liked to play for anybody else but Bronco. I loved Bronco. I was able to do a lot of great things under Bronco. I would never say I want a different coach at BYU. But I would love to come play for these guys too.
Right.
Yeah.
If I was a recruit right now, that would be a great place to come play. And you see that around Utah and around the country. People want to come here now. And it's because of what they're able to not only do on the field, but what that environment's like in the locker room.
You know what's interesting is we always hear the guys, once in a while we'll talk about it when they talk about, oh crap, Scary Kalani came today. So like, he's really great and he loves them all up, but when they're doing something that he doesn't like, then they talk about Scary Kalani showing up and everyone's scared to death. When he gets upset, everyone just kind of walks around and ducks, and they see him come down the hall, they go the other direction. It's like Scary Kalani was at work today. So he can put that on.
And
he can put that on when he needs it. Yeah, which is great, which is great.
Dennis, tonight, you'll be recognized out there in front of 60,000. They'll get to cheer you and your family and the other inductees. Congratulations on the Hall of Fame, well deserved.
Thank you guys, I appreciate it.